Hey, everybody, welcome back to Practical Liberty. My name's Henry Bingaman, and this is another episode with my business partner in the SaaS company we're building, Mr. Nick Watts. Nick, welcome to the show. You have had an interesting last couple weeks. Do you want to fill folks in on kind of the tosses and turns your life has been going through recently?
Yeah, so I've been away. I had to go across the state line and stay with my parents for a couple of weeks, me and my family, because a tornado hit our little town and knocked out the power for 2 weeks. So I was away. I bought a laptop and was working my day job remotely, and we've been waiting for the power to come back on, but it's back now. We're back here, and we might even have a talk about some of the things we learned in the process. We've started becoming semi-preppers as a result of that experience. We might talk about that in a little bit.
That is a fascinating thing. I didn't know you had tornadoes. Tornadoes sound like such a Midwestern American phenomenon that you don't picture them in Australia very often, anyway.
It's not normal. And I would not have believed it, except that I've now seen the pictures of the cone coming down. I thought that's just not a thing we have. But, large street signs have just been completely blown over and flattened on the ground. Heaps of trees knocked over and snapped. It's been carnage. So fortunately, our home is okay. We just didn't have power.
This weather anomaly proves that climate change is real and going to destroy the Earth in 24 hours, right?
Obviously, obviously, 24 hours at the most. If we don't vote Democrat right now.
Exactly. All right. So, as always, we do the first half of this show is kind of some business related topics. And then the second half, we get into more liberty, freedom, social type topics. So, what was the topic that you wanted to bring up this week for as far as the business side goes?
So I'm really interested to talk to you about the difference between selling what's called B2C, business to consumer, versus B2B, business to business. So in the world I live in, which is kind of SaaS and software, we mostly do B2B. It's a known, accepted thing that B2B is generally a much better business model for doing software as a service. Software as a service, business to consumer, is very difficult. You tend to have to give a lot away for free. So that's things like Dropbox, where if you do really well, you might convert 3% of your free users into paid users. And the revenue from them has to cover all the stuff you give away for free. It's a really hard business to be in. You pretty much need a lot of venture capital. You need to burn a lot of money to get market share. If you want to bootstrap, if you want to build your own company from the ground up and not take venture capital, which is what we're kind of doing, you want to do B2B. You want to be selling to people who have money and are happy to spend it to get a good result for their business, where spending money with you will help them make more. That's just a heaps better relationship to have. But I know that you, in your experience as a copywriter, have done some B2C stuff, and I'm really curious to just hear your reflections on what the difference is between selling B2B versus selling B2C, and maybe then talk about from a libertarian angle, we have this really baked in notion that individuals make decisions in that kind of Austrian economics tradition. There's a company doesn't make a call, an individual, a particular manager decides to buy or not buy. And so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm just curious to hear from you. If you were writing copy, you're usually, I think, selling to a consumer. Tell me if I'm wrong about that.
No, I would say the vast majority of the selling I've done, the copywriting I've done a little bit of B2B, but the vast majority of the almost $400 million has been business to consumer. We're selling newsletters and supplements and exercise programs, stuff like that. So that's directly to the consumer. I actually think the best way to answer it is actually the kind of economics answer, which is you have to understand the person that you're selling to and their incentives. So in the consumer world, you're selling to somebody for their own personal gain, right? It's directly applicable to their life. So if you're selling them, say, a supplement, you're selling it to them because they want to feel better, or they want to sleep better, or they want less pain, or whatever it is that supplement or accomplishes. If you're selling them like an investment newsletter, right, this is all about the greed and them making more money. So you have to understand your customer and their motive, but that doesn't change that much in when you're selling business to business. You just have to understand that the incentives of the person you're selling to, because you're still selling to an individual. Like, corporations don't make decisions. I mean, even if it has to go through a board, there's one person that has to shepherd it through that board and be the advocate for you. So you really have to sell that person pretty
Mm.
hard. So the incentives are very different in a business to business context because first of all, you're not the person that you're selling to isn't spending their own money, right? They have a set budget typically that they're going to go through or they're allowed to go through, and everybody spends every dollar of their budget every year, right? Otherwise, it gets taken away. That's actually one of the incentives that you should know about if you're B2B. That budgets get spent. So if you find somebody that still has room in their budget at the end of the year, sometimes December sales can be the best because they have a certain amount left in their budget to spend without getting in trouble. So that's one of the motivations. But the other motivation is they don't want to look dumb. Like somebody especially if you're selling to a middle manager, the worst thing that they can do is get accused of buying a product that doesn't work or wasting the company's money. So their incentive is to not screw up, which makes the first sale you have to make to them like their own personal motivation. Like you're going to look like a hero for bringing this product to your company. This is going to make you shine inside your company. That is the general motivation. It's different if you're selling to the CEO or the founder of the business. So if you're selling to the founder, they want the upside, man. They want to grow the business because all their incentives align. They're willing to take a lot more risk and spend a lot more money on more speculative, I guess, type products. So you can make more of a business case to them that with less like safety, you're going to look dumb because nobody fires them unless they have to answer to a board. But even then, unless you're selling them multi-million dollar products, they're they're not going to get fired for spending $10,000 on some software as a service. So I don't know. That's kind of the beginning of it. What other questions you have in that realm? Or did I clarify anything there?
Yeah, that is helpful. So one of the things that you brought up there that I hadn't really thought through, but makes a lot of sense now you say it, is that when you're selling B2B, what you probably want to do is find someone within the organization to be the champion of your product, who's going to be inside the organization and make the case from within why we should buy this. So if that person to shepherd it through the series of layers of people who've got to have sign off, the person who's there going, yes, we should do it. Here's why we should do it. Who's kind of who's selling for you when you're not directly in the conversation, and whose reputation is tied to the sale.
Yeah, in B2B, you use a lot different types of marketing material. So like, for example, if I'm selling an exercise program to somebody, I'm going to write like a 45-minute video demonstrating why this works, selling you all the benefits, showing proof of how fast it's worked for people, testimonials that it's worked before, because they just want to know that it's going to work for them. When you're selling to a B2B, it's somebody that has to go through a board and really sell it, like shepherd it through the process. You need to give them a lot more ancillary marketing materials. You need to give them white papers that they can present to other people. Basically, you need to provide the marketing material that they can use to sell the other people in their company. So it's a whole different set of marketing material that you have to provide, right? It's funny when I write financial sales letters, basically for stock investing or options type services. The joke that we always talk about is like we make the sale emotionally to the person, to the man typically watching within the first 2 minutes. And the rest of the 40-minute video is the logical arguments that he can sell his wife on why he bought it later. Like it's so you only have one person to convince after you make that sale. Whereas in the business world, you have a whole lot more people that you have to get on board. And then you also need to provide support afterwards. You need to convince that person that the onboarding of their team's going to be on board. And like there's a whole extra process. That's why those business to business sales are such high ticket items because there's a lot of work that goes into onboarding and keeping a new customer.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down because it's not something I'd thought through. So I have a day job at a SaaS company still, and I think we have room to improve on our sales and marketing, and that is one of the things I'm immediately writing down is provide material to the person who you want to be championing your product. Provide material for them to present to the rest of the people in the organization. That's gold. I'm gonna think a lot more about how we do that. Because we occasionally we do sell. We sell to a lot of mom and pop businesses, but we also sell to some larger corporates that have 100 locations and are properly large and have all the layers of frankly bureaucracy that comes along with that. Some of them are non-profits, which just the red tape gets out of control.
Well, there's also the interesting aspect of selling to there's B2G, right? Business to government sales, which is a different animal than all of it. Then like I've seen a couple people be very successful. I have a friend in Philadelphia that I don't know if you know this about Pennsylvania, the state, but all liquor sales are controlled by the state. You can only buy alcohol. Well, you can only buy liquor. You can buy beer and wine through grocery stores or other outlets. But hard liquor, anything over like 20% alcohol, needs to go through a state store. So he
Huh.
started a distilling company, realizing that he had to make exactly one sale. He had to sell to the state board, and he would be in every store across Pennsylvania. So I mean, it was a brilliant strategy, and he's on his second distillery now. He's one of the top distillers in the country. It's a wonderful story, but like he only had to make one sale. So like the government incentives are different, but it all selling comes back to the incentive structure of the actual individual that you're talking to that's going to make the decision. So like with our company, we're mostly selling to freelancers, not mostly, almost
Yeah.
exclusively. There might be some small businesses that can use it here and there, but our audience is freelancers. So that's much more like a consumer type person. It's the CEO, but also a consumer mentality. So it's technically a business to business sale, but the strategy is much more business to consumer because of the mindset of a freelancer.
Yeah. So this was one of my really interesting questions for you because I know that you've done a lot of financial copy. And I'm just wondering because there's that old saying that when you write financial copy, you're trying to sell a dollar for 50 cents. And I feel like when you sell tools to a business, it's kind of like that. I would imagine in a way you're selling them this on the basis that if you pay us some money, you will make more money. That's kind of the essence of it.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
you're selling the best sale you can make is money at a discount, right?
Mm,
It's so I don't know because there's a lot of software that saves money. So it's like, oh, are you spending $2,000 a month on this? Well, this will do it for 500 a month. So your total savings are whatever. There's a
yeah.
lot in that realm that you can do. I know that's what the AI sales pitches are all about. It's like, oh, you have a team of writers that
That's true.
you're paying 20 grand a month to. Just use Claude or Chat GPT, and all of a sudden you can replace them. Now we're finding out that doesn't actually work that well, and writers are still necessary in a lot of contexts. Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I'm actually in the middle of a financial launch right now. Actually, it's going out the day we release this episode. I'll have a launch go live. So I've been doing a lot of, I've written 7,500 words in the past week just on emails and landing page copy and order form confirmations and just an insane amount of stuff. I tried using Claude. So Claude.ai is actually better for writers than ChatGPT, like by far. Um, and it's generally terrible. I can't use any of like the body copy that it delivers to me. But where it's been really helpful is I'll say, I'll feed it the entire script of the promo I wrote. And then I'll say, come up with 100 headline ideas. And like two of them will be
Mm,
like, oh, interesting, that you can build on. Same thing for email subject lines. Come up with, hey, Claude, can you come up with 100 email subject lines in this tone based on this email? And it does. And 90 of them are terrible. And then you find some gems. So that's the way that I've been using AI, if anybody's interested in that type of thing. Um, some of these business tools are fascinating, but I don't know. They don't feel ready for prime time to me.
do you feel that there's a qualitative difference between writing copy for, say, financial versus health? Because one's going to, make you money and the other's not, or are they just still find the incentive and appeal to the incentive, and the incentive is just a slightly different incentive?
I mean, it's a dramatically different incentive in health and financial. So financial it's really about you're selling money, obviously wealth, but what you're really selling is comfort and status and kind of the alleviation of fears. A lot of, even on promos that are very greed driven, like you're going to make a lot of money. A lot of times the people they're worried because they don't know that they have enough money saved up for retirement, and they're getting to that age where they really have to start thinking about that. So you have to address, you're still selling to the motivation there. The motivation is not that you're going to buy a Lambo and own a yacht, right? The motivation is you're not going to be a burden on your kids. You're going to have plenty of money, and you're still going to get to maybe travel and have an enjoyable retirement. It's
Yeah.
But then in health, it's partially fear, partially. So if you have a pain relief supplement, is usually the easiest one to sell because people
Yeah.
know they can't be taking 10 Tylenol pills a day without bleeding out. So if you have these anti-inflammatory, it's an urgent problem that people want solved right away. So if you can show some good evidence that it works, you can sell those. Weight loss is a harder one to sell because it's been so saturated, the market. Like, there's no magic. Everybody knows there's no magic pill to lose weight. Um, I had a rough holidays, so I'm back on the keto diet again. Um, and it's like you get this great progress, and then all of a sudden the scale doesn't move for 3 days in a row, and you're just like, come on, there's no magic bullet. Everybody's tried to lose weight, everybody knows it. So you have to really make a compelling case, and usually it's protein powders and workout programs, right? That's what you're selling in the weight loss space. So you have to get over the I don't want to work out, right? That sounds painful, but I really really want this benefit of not being fat anymore. So that, I mean, you really have to find the motivation. So I have my biggest promo ever is it's a weight loss for women going through menopause. Basically, that is the core audience. And their biggest motivation is a lot of women when they hit menopause, their hormones change so much that nothing they tried in the past works anymore. Like they just have a different body
Mm,
that's unfamiliar to them. So just explaining the whole promo started with a hormone type quiz, which is really just a measurement of approximate measurement of your testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, and HGH, because those are different in different women as they go through perimenopause and then menopause. And so you have different diets and exercise programs that you need to adjust to the hormones. Anyway, explaining this to those women, it's like a magical revelation to them. Like, oh, I should actually eat half a potato because I need more carbs before I go to bed, when I've been told I should never eat carbs. Or this, I'm trying to, spend 2 hours in the gym, and that's actually raising my cortisol so much that it's making me fatter. And I should
yeah.
actually spend 15 minutes a day in intense exercise and then do an hour-long walk at a moderate pace. Like all these things are revelations, and then the testimonials that come in are just amazing because all of a sudden something is actually moving them in the right direction. But it's all individual motivation. It's what's the person, what problem are you trying to solve, and what's their life going to be like when you solve it? That's what you're selling.
I'm going to tell a brief personal story just to tell people something about myself. That I have always struggled with how on earth people sell these things, because if I'm honest, I'm a very disciplined person. Uh, it will become clear in the story. So I the hardest subject I took while I was doing sort of tertiary study was learning biblical Hebrew, the language. That was really hard. That was very hard work. Just it took a lot of time, a lot of focus, a lot of energy. And so I made the conscious decision that in the couple of semesters where I was doing Hebrew, uh, I was going to stop taking the time to make meals and take them with me to college. I was just going to get takeout food and save time that way. And I was going to let myself not do as much exercise as I would normally do. And I knew I would put some weight on. And I said, I will lose that at the end of the year, because Christmas is summer for us. So I thought over the summer, over the holidays, I will lose it. And I think I gained and then lost 13 kilos, which is kilos about 2.5 pounds. So there's a significant amount of weight, more than I thought I would put on. And I lost it all the next summer. I went and found something of like what do you have to do to qualify for the Navy SEALs, and like hit the exercise targets you have to be able to hit. And I set out to try and hit. There was I think I hit a few of the lowest ones. I think I hit the swimming one, and I think came pretty close on the running one, and different stuff like that. And I was eating like ham and salad for lunch and a banana for dinner. I did that for a week. And just went right, exercise, low cal, and just energy out, calories in, lower, and just flipped it. And I, I just thought, why doesn't everyone do this?
It's yeah, it sounds so easy. And I mean, you're right. Everybody knows what to do to lose weight in general. Um, there's just so many. I mean, I know personally, I have the like when I get fat, it's because things are going like poorly in
Mm,
every other aspect of my life. Not every other aspect, but you know what I mean. Like, I had as you know, I had a breakup, and then I had a client that went under, owing me $500,000. So I got real stressed towards the end of last year. Um,
yeah,
and so I just was like, I don't care. I don't want to think about it. All of a sudden I'm hungry, and at 7 o'clock I'm gonna order a pizza. And you do that 3 times a week, and you get fat really fast.
yeah.
Like
We've all
it's
been there.
not that hard. But yeah, I mean, once you're like, all right, no more drinking, no more pizza, just strict keto. I have half a cow in my freezer. I'm going through it actually pretty fast right now. But then I don't know. I really like beef, so I had a nice pot roast tonight. Um, I've had steak the last 3 days. I actually have a bone broth that's it's on a 24-hour simmer right now. So like once I get in the habit of just eating high fat, high protein like meals, It's satiating. I feel good. I'm being extremely productive at work. Like, and then I think the positive momentum feeds positive momentum in dieting. Like you got to struggle through the first 3 or 4 days, I think, in general, and then it starts to roller coaster in a good way, like it's a snowball in a good way, where you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have that. I don't want to have that cheeseburger and ruin the last 4 weeks of good work or 2 weeks
Mm.
of good work. Good work. So yeah, I don't know. I think everybody's different in their momentum. Some people like, I don't know, just really have cravings for carbs. Also, that's a gut biome thing. There's some proof that if you have the wrong bacterias in your gut, the wrong probiotics, it can really cause cravings for sugars and carbs. So you need to purge those. You need to suffer through the first couple days. Take a good probiotic and
Mm.
prebiotics. Um, I don't know. I don't want to turn this into a weight loss show, but in general,
Yeah.
like motivation comes from a lot of different places, and people have different struggles. So I don't judge anybody for their
Yeah,
own
for sure.
struggles, but you gotta put one foot in front of the other, and you like just make every day better than the last, and you gotta want it.
There's always a reason that people are the way they are and make the choices they make. It may not be, quote unquote, a good reason, but there's always a reason. And it always made sense to them at the time. It seemed like the right trade-off to them in the moment. And so, I don't know, just keeping that in mind always helps me to be sympathetic. Just go, I meet someone who's got a significant weight problem and struggling to keep weight off and this kind of thing. I go, well, there's probably an emotional struggle there that you're addressed. Like you've made a trade-off to I'm going to comfort eat sometimes to help me deal with things that are going on in my life emotionally. And I don't know what those things are. Like that might be the right trade-off to make. It actually might be. Like depending what you're suffering through, if that's how you get by, it might be better than plunging into depression or something. So just it's probably not a good long-term solution, but if it gets you through a particular week,
I think the best thing is to have understand the problem, but don't accept it. Like it's like I
mm,
understand that there's an emotional thing here, but like I don't have to accept that you're doing something destructive to yourself. Like I can
yeah,
have sympathy for what you're going through, but also I will tell you that the right thing to do. And like I have to be honest with myself about this sometimes too. It's like, yeah, the right thing to do is stop ordering pizza, dude. Like get
mm,
back on the health. You are the most productive. You have been the most successful in your life when you're getting healthy. When you are healthy. So suck
yeah,
it up. Stop feeling bad for yourself, because that's a large part of what when things go wrong is when you start feeling bad for yourself, and then you're the only
yeah.
one giving yourself sympathy, and that's a downward spiral that can go ugly real fast. So
Mm.
it's a hard thing to snap out of, but the self pity is the worst. It's the most toxic thing you can do to yourself, I believe.
And I think live life on purpose. I think is a way I always want to be. And I think that was one of the really helpful things I took away from Harry Brown is that just in any circumstance you're in, you have a choice. It might be a choice between two options you don't love, but you do have a choice, and you can pick one or the other. Like you can pick between two trade-offs always, and be intentional about your decisions. Picture yourself trading one thing for another, and trade the less valuable for the more valuable. If you keep doing that, you'll trend in a positive direction.
That is
Um,
it. Yes, the Harry Brown, I still think, is the person that's explained the concept of value the best way I know. Um, and that's exactly it. Is it's you're choosing the thing you value, and it could be you could, subjectively an objectively bad choice, but you're still valuing one thing. So yes, but really sit there and decide on what you value, and you'll make better decisions, I think, in the long run.
just to circle back to the B2B, B2C selling thing, uh, there's this saying in my world, I don't know if this comes up for you, that the saying is no one ever got fired for buying IBM, which I think is that perfect like middle manager motivation that if you're not sure what to do, buy the big name brand that everyone else bought because if it fails, it's pretty hard to pin that on you. It was it seemed like a good call. No one can say that it seemed like a stupid call. And so I think that's playing into that. You want to help the middle manager understand that you're a safe choice. You're not going to put their job in jeopardy, and there's upside. You might make them look like the company hero. Just playing to the incentives. But I guess that then changes, I suppose, when you're doing B2C because they're not trying to impress people; they're trying to get a result. How does a freelancer fit into that? I guess becomes the question. Do you need to sell a freelancer safety or not
It
really?
depends. No, it depends where they're at in their I guess freelance career. So uh, the thing about if you have the option of you can sell to, I would not try to target middle managers. Obviously, there are some products that just fall into that category, but they're the worst type of person to sell to for exactly the reason you said. Like the biggest choice is the safest choice. So they always want to go, yeah, they can't be again fired for choosing the option that every one of their competitors chooses. Um, Vivek Ramaswamy actually has been making this point in the healthcare field, in the pharmaceutical field. He's like, well, if everybody tries the same, pharmaceuticals uh, process out and it all fails, well, that's just what everybody does. So nobody takes any chances in their experimentation because the incentives are all aligned to not get fired. That's just the way because it's all about the funding. Um, but as far as freelancers go, I don't know any freelancers that don't want to make more money. They're always looking for the upside, either more money or less time working. Those are the kind of the two. They want a, basically more status, more money, and some of those people are willing to work really, really hard, or they want the nomadic lifestyle. The digital nomad is a very popular thing. In that
Yeah,
case, they want to work 4 or 5 hours a day, and they want to make a reasonable income, but they want as much of their business on autopilot as possible because they're out there, they're traveling to explore. They want to experience the world. So I think you got to separate your customers out to know which one's which, um, and sell to them. But it's much of a more of a business to consumer type of sale, even though it's technically business to business, because it's a freelancer is an individual. Like their company is it's a company, but it's also them. So it's more of an individual consumer type sale than it is a business sale. Although the economics work better because if you can show like that I can make you $1,000 extra a month with this software just by automating your client getting process, then that's worth $100 a month to them. Then whereas if it's just an individual, like I wouldn't buy software for $100 a month if it wasn't making me any money, right? Like I have trouble with Netflix raising their price to $15 a month. So
exactly right. I have a work tool that I use all the time that just it came up for renewal. I pay an annual subscription for it, and just it came up. I think it was yeah like $100. Was it $100 a year? And I said, yeah, no worries. I'm if someone just said I'm taking $100 from you, hold on, what for? What for? But because it's this work tool I use every day, I know I'm going to get way more value out of it. They could triple the price of it. They could quintuple the price of it, and I would just pay it without blinking because I know I get that much value out of it without a hassle.
I mean, that's actually an important lesson to know is if you can really show the value that you're getting. I think a lot of companies are undercharging for their products. Now,
Mm.
I don't want them to overcharge the companies I'm using, so I'm not giving them advice. But for everybody whose product I'm not using, you're probably undercharging. It's I don't
There's
know. It's one of those. It's the easiest way to make more money is go from if you're charging $29 a month, test out 39. If you're charging 39, test out 49. The incremental sale, people will let you know when you're like, wait, this just isn't worth it anymore. Or if you start getting close to it, I always want to way over deliver on the product. Like if you're getting
mm,
$1,000 a month out of it, I don't want to get more than I don't want to take all your profits, right? I'm not charging you $900 so you get an extra $100 a month. But I don't feel bad charging what $199 or $100 or whatever it is, as long as it's disproportionately in your side because I want to keep you as a customer forever. Like
mm,
it's actually selfish in that way. Whereas like I'm making sure that you're a $10,000 lifetime customer as opposed to a, $4,000 I got you as much as I could over the next 6 months type customer. Again, goes back to libertarian economics. This is time preference. I want a low time preference. I want to have you for the longer time because that is the greater benefit.
So I think my big takeaway here for us for selling a product for freelancers is going to be, for me, from this product angle where I'm trying to build product, what features does it need to have and what form do they need to take to give the person using it the best lifestyle? So it needs to make the processes they need to do as part of their freelancing career needs to take the least effort, the least time from them, give them the easiest ways to make more money by doing the same kind of things that they're doing to just make as efficient as possible their goal of living the lifestyle they want to live, whether that's the digital nomad thing, whether that's just making a lot more money as a freelancer than they did in a day job, whatever combination of those things it is, just efficiently giving them the lifestyle they're after.
It's a good question for our onboarding. We should really think about how to customize that onboarding process to
Mm.
make sure we're addressing their individual needs. I also thought of another feature that I want to add, so more work for you, but I think it's a good selling point. So we'll talk about it offline. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to buy this product when it comes out to see all these amazing features we're talking about. All right. Off the business side, I want to talk because I really like this topic. Your experience with a tornado kind of has you rethinking sustainability, I guess, or survivability. What would you call it? Just preparedness? Not, I don't want to go full prepper here, but a certain level of emergency preparedness or just life preparedness. So do you want to? I don't know. How do you want to introduce this topic?
Uh, I'm happy to just call it being a prepper. We laugh about it here. One of my groomsmen is a guy named Dave. He's currently in the UK doing some big corporate job for some medical supply place. But I went a couple of years ago. I called him and just was chatting, how you going, this kind of thing. And he admitted to me in the conversation, man, I've become a full-on prepper. He lives kind of out in a country town, about 30,000 people, and then he lives kind of on farmland, a bit off the edge of town. Not totally unlike yourself, I guess, sort of a bit out of Philly, up in the mountains. He's like that, and I don't think he has any illegal guns, but it wouldn't totally surprise me either. I would never accuse him of such a thing. But he's the kind of guy that he probably does have some things buried just in case. Not guns necessarily, but just he went down the prepper rabbit hole as a hobby, I think, for a while. And I sort of found myself going, I was a bit high and mighty about it in my own mind, not to him, but I was thinking, I've spent all these last few years reading all this Austrian econ, and I understand that there's this huge supply chain that I've read iPencil. I can't make things for myself efficiently. It's ridiculous to think that I can. However much prepping I do, I'm going to remain dependent on this whole economy around me. I can't avoid that. So why try to do all these things inefficiently? But of course, COVID happened, shipping got shut down. Now we've had a tornado knock some stuff out, and I'm sort of realizing, okay, there's some value to being able, for a short period of time, be a bit self-sufficient. It's not a long-term solution. It's just something to carry you through until the supply chains get reestablished. So that's kind of the epiphany I've come to.
There's a couple different ways to look at it. So part of what we were talking about is growing our own food, or at least a certain level of it. Now, yeah, it's going to be really hard to grow and sustain yourself and a family of 5 unless you go full homesteading where you have cows and chickens and a half-acre garden. That's what it takes actually to feed like a family of more than just yourself. But there's
Mm.
there's something about growing your own food that's actually rewarding in itself. So there is cost defrayment. So if you grow all your own vegetables, that's going to cut down on your grocery bill, especially if you have a way
Yeah.
of preserving them. So I have a freeze dryer that I have yet to set up, but I have the freeze dryer. I didn't set it up because my vegetable crop came in so terribly. I'm so bad at growing vegetables. I have the strategy now for next year. I need better raised beds. I did the raised beds all wrong, and the soil combination was wrong. That's why I didn't get as many plants as I had anticipated. Um, but I hired a consultant. I kind of know what I'm doing for the next season. But I don't know. There's also, if you have kids, it's a great educational experience.
Mm.
Understanding the life cycle and understanding where food comes from and the how to plant something. It's something you can't get out of just a biology textbook. You can tell them what photosynthesis is, but watching them plant and nurture and watching something die, watching them fail, and then having to learn, oh, here's what I did wrong. I mean, it's my sister homeschools her kids, and I think the garden is an excellent way, a teaching tool. But for me, it's satisfying eating your own food, and it tastes better. Like the zucchinis and cucumbers and
Yeah.
tomatoes and stuff that you grow on your own. It just does taste better. It's more rewarding. So
I
there's
yeah.
reasons to do it.
So I have friends that moved to the USA when I was probably 10. And one of the things that they said to me, they moved to North Carolina. So I don't know, maybe it varies area to area, but they told me that they were shocked when they got there how little people eat fresh fruit and vegetables, and how fruit and veg that we were used to eating fresh almost all came out of a can in the wherever they were living. People were just used to eating canned everything. I don't know. You tell me whether that's your experience or not.
It depends. That sounds like a food desert. So there's a large swaths of the country because it's such a big country that it's very poverty stricken, and the grocery store is the Dollar General. and it has don't check the expiration date on the canned food. That's what people eat. They eat spam, they eat canned chicken, it's just cheap, and it's a poverty lifestyle. If you get to a big city, like there's Whole Foods and there's fresh foods everywhere. But I don't know. We don't have a very good nutrition education in this country either. So unless you were raised with somebody showing you how to prepare food and actually balance a meal, which is shockingly not that common. Even I don't want to blame my parents, but I learned a lot more about nutrition. Actually, when I started doing CrossFit and really learning about nutrition, working with selling like health products and working with some of these doctors, I just learned that nobody does nutrition right, especially in the 80s and 90s. Nobody even knew to do nutrition right. But we did have fresh food and fresh vegetables. And I'm not saying that, but like just balancing things and understanding carbohydrates versus sugar versus fat versus protein, and how to balance them, how to think about a meal. I didn't learn that until I was well into my adulthood. So I don't know. It's hard. You have to educate yourself. And there's so much new science coming out of nutrition that it's hard to keep up with. But I mean, I'm doing keto now, which means I'm doing basically almost entirely meat and a little bit of greens. And I mean, it's delicious. I love steak and chicken, and
Yeah,
there's some other meats in there.
avocados,
But
I gather, are a big thing in keto.
yeah, I don't love avocados. Um, they're fine. They're expensive, and they get mushy and they're brown, and I never know which ones are good and bad in the grocery store.
So where I am, for a start, we grow a bunch of our own vegetables because the dirt on the mountain where I live is really fertile. It's a good place to grow your own food. We're going to get chickens, and I think a big part of that, like you said, is we have small kids that we're not totally made up our minds, but very possibly going to homeschool. And so one of the things we want to do is do gardening.
Your mic just switch.
My headphones are running out of battery, so I may switch to some other headphones.
All right.
These are actually my wife's. So on the live stream, I'm going to put on a pair of. But at
Oh,
least I'll be able to
beautiful.
hear you then. These are really nice. These are Beats by Dre that my wife got on our honeymoon in Hawaii.
Oh, you really spoil her with the Beats by Dre.
We splurged on a couple of things. I bought a really nice GoPro on that trip too because stuff is so cheap. We got to Hawaii and the Hawaiians are like, everything's so expensive here because it's all going to get shipped across the water. And we're coming from Australia going, everything's cheap. Everything.
Really? Is Australia that expensive?
It is. It is. It's sad reality, which will feed into the prepping thing, point I make in a second. But the good thing about the town where we live is that avocados rain from the sky. Everyone's got avocado trees.
Your microphone has changed. You have a dramatically different audio. Is there a...
Oh, there you go. Let me. I can probably change that. Give me 1 second here. Audio. Mic. That's the good mic. Is that better? Hearing me any differently?
Yeah, a little bit. That's fine.
Okay, hopefully good enough. Avocados rain from the sky, basically. Everyone's trying to give them away. You can't buy them because everyone's going, please take my avocados. There's too many on the ground. Where you go just an hour away and they're like $2, $3 each in the grocery store. So that's just, we eat a lot of avocado because we don't have to bother with dodgy avocados. There's always good ones because there's so many. You just chuck the bad ones away. And we have good guacamole.
There was something in 2017. I think it was at Trump. It was either something happened with a trade embargo with Mexico, or something happened with the supply lines where the Mexico was no longer importing avocados, and there was like a guacamole shortage, and the Mexican restaurants were panicking because everybody wanted guacamole, and it went from like a $7 appetizer to like $14-15 to get their main appetizer. It was kind of funny.
It's bad. But that brings us to the energy thing. So Australia has lots of things are expensive here. I think of Australia kind of like Switzerland. It's a really nice place to be, but you pay for it. It just is what it is. It's the trade-off you make. But one of the things that's stupidly expensive here that shouldn't be is energy. This country is a mine. Basically, that is what it is. Our economy is pretty much two things: mining and the housing market. And there is so much coal here. There is so much uranium here. I think there's quite a bit of oil. I'm not as familiar with how far that goes. I used to work at a company that made in-vehicle computers for coal mine trucks. And so I got this sense of just how stupidly vast the coal resource is. And yet it's got some of the most expensive home electricity in the world just because of stupid policy.
What is the main source of energy for like powering cities and towns?
Uh, Historically, like I think it's mostly been coal historically, but then just it's like Canada, right? It's the Green Left is either in power or strongly influencing those who are in power and pushing for shut down all the coal plants and have heaps more solar and wind, and it's getting more expensive and less reliable. And let's tax the coal companies heaps, and anything fossil fuels is the devil, and stay away from it. And we're good people. We don't Good people don't use fossil fuels. It's all that kind of vibe is strong here.
And they won't use nuclear either, even though it's the cleanest and the new generation of reactors are the safest. And he
Yeah,
said you have uranium, so it's like an abundant natural resource for you. It's literally insane what they're doing. But it's interesting
in
that you
these
talk
Teslas.
about the renewables because this is something we've also talked about. And I have the solar hookups on my house. I haven't got the panels yet, but I really want to. Solar at a, uh, I don't know, nationwide level, like those giant solar fields don't seem to make sense to me. There was just, I saw a picture of a solar field that got hit by a hailstorm and caused like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of these solar panels to shatter. But so on the industrial like strength powering a city type scale, solar doesn't seem to work. But for my own home, it's like seems really nice. Thomas Massey, built his own custom solar system. Now he's a pro drill. We still need oil. We're not going to power our cars on solar entirely yet. But as far as a home solution, especially even whether you want to stay attached to the grid and have it as a backup or get entirely off the grid, I don't know. I mean, those solar panels are pretty cool.
Yeah. So in when this tornado hit recently and we had to leave, we actually fled to my parents' house. So me and my little family, we went and stayed with my parents for a couple of weeks. We were going to go there for a week anyway because it was Christmas, and we just extended for another week. But they live fully off grid, not because they're particularly preppers or anything. Just they bought a block of land. It happened to be on the edge of town, wasn't connected to the grid, and they weren't going to be able to convince the local government to invest anything to connect them up. So it's just tank water, septic tank, and big self-contained solar and battery system that powers the house. And so that was really interesting for me to just think through and realize that if we had that here, we wouldn't have been affected by blackouts. We could have carried on. And in fact, it might have been, we could have potentially been very helpful to the people around us. So you said, hey, you want to call your family and let them know you're okay? Charge your phone at our house. There's lots of ways we could have just reached out to people in our neighborhood. Um, you know, it's an investment up front that we're not really looking to make right now, but something we might think about in the future for that reason. And I think Elon Musk made this point in a way that I thought was very interesting. He has a vested interest, obviously, but still a valid point that there is something about solar, which even if it's less efficient in terms of dollar cost for energy produced, it has a decentralizing effect that if there's a war or something, it's a lot harder to cut off your supply of sunshine than to cut off your supply of gasoline.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The grid is something that it's what a lot of preppers are worried about. That because our grid is, I don't know about Australia's grid, but the United States grid is hobbled together. There are like,
Mm,
I don't know, 24 points where you could, if you hit these 24 points, you could black out 90% of the country or something. It's
yeah,
just it's too interconnected. It's too weak. It's old. Everybody knows it's a huge vulnerability, and it could be upgraded for like $100 billion or something, which is a ton of money, but it's like what we sent to Ukraine.
yeah. It's a lot of money, and it's not.
But no, I like the decentralizing effect. So I have my house is almost set up. It's almost ideally prepper. I have about a year's worth of food stored. I got the prepper buckets, like the food buckets. Um, I have my own well water. I have a septic that septics need to be emptied every few years, but it could last a long time. Um,
Yeah,
I have a wood burning furnace that I can heat my house with if I need to. I don't use it. I use oil because it gets down to 0 degrees basically in the winter, and I have to go out there 3 times a day to reload it, and I have to be chopping wood and trees, and it's just a lot more work. So I'm going the fossil fuel route, but I could use the furnace if I needed to. The only thing I really lack is the electrical source. So if I got um, a solar wall or whatever, Tesla solar wall and a couple panels, enough to just My house is actually facing perfectly. The guy that built this house he was really cool. He sat on this property he came every month for 6 months tracking the sun. So he built it perfectly facing the sun. So I have the ideal solar angle. Um,
That's clever.
but yeah, but again, it's like $30,000 to get this thing set up. And it's like, who
Mm.
wants to put that money out?
Yeah, I think my parents did it because they had to, but it's a big outlay. But actually, fun fact where we are, it's everyone's on tank water, so there's no town water. Everyone's water is independent. It's just where the town has been set up. And same thing, we have a wood fire as well.
So
But
what is tank water exactly?
so is that I don't know. You must call it something else there. Everyone must have it out in the sticks in the farms, but it's just where rain hits the roof, runs to the gutter, down a pipe into a tank, and that's where you get your drinking water from.
Most people that I know have if you have the ability to drill a well, you do, because you never run out of water.
Yeah, well, I guess is the answer.
Yeah, my well's dug 300 feet. He hit water at 100 feet, so he just kept going.
Mm.
So it had to be a crazy drought for me to actually lose water at this house.
Yeah. So maybe that's the thing. A lot more people dig wells there. They don't do that here because I guess there's not as much underground water. Instead, they collect rainwater off the roof. That's if you're not connected to like city infrastructure, that's what you do.
Where I've seen those big tanks is in Texas, where they have a lot harder time finding water.
Yeah. We have some things in common with Texas. Queensland, the state where I live in, there's a town called Texas. We have a certain affection for Texas.
Yeah, I guess what other things would you want to be more self-sustaining? Like, are there anything else besides electric and food that you can think of that you would? So one of the things that I like to do, and I'm working on this right now, I can't say I've done it, is networking with local farmers. So I don't want to have to grow all my own food, right? I'm not going to be able to. I'm not raising steer. It's just not going to
Yeah.
happen. But there's giant farms around here, and I would like to be friends with those people, because then if you're friends with them, there's a lot of things I can do, like offer my skills in some ways to whatever they need. Like I can help them market and sell their beef. But also I want first cut of the beef when the supply chains start breaking down and you need somewhere to sell that cow and you can't get it to the grocery store. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I got you, buddy.
I've got bullets.
I'll trade you bullets for beef. I'm actually
There's
really pumped. I bought a t-shirt that says barbells, beef, and Bitcoin.
That's a good combination. Which I'll take the opportunity to make that point. One of the really interesting things that my dad said to me about their off-grid solar that just made me think differently about it was changes their usage pattern of the electricity. So I'm used to being on town power, on coal power. It doesn't matter what time of the day or night; it's priced the same. There are weird power companies you can sign up to that give you fluctuating prices depending what time of the day you use stuff. But for most, it's just a flat this many cents per kilowatt hour rate. And so, we go to bed and we've used dishes all day and I put the dishwasher on and go to bed. My parents don't do that. They make sure they put the dishwasher on in the day because it uses a bunch of power and they want to put it on when there's lots of sunshine because they want the battery to last through the night for things like the fridge that need to run when it's dark. But it also means that there are times in the day when the power is just abundant. And so things like on a hot day in the afternoon, there's loads of power. They will do things like run the air conditioner flat out with all the doors open. Now, I would never think to do that, but they go, it's really comfortable. It's a really nice temperature, and all the air is really fresh. You don't have that stale feel of having had the air conditioning on all day. So you get fresh air in a really nice temperature. It's hugely power wasteful, but it's at that point in the day where the battery's full and you've got all this solar coming in, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so there's
Yeah,
things
it's
you would
free
do
energy.
differently, which then feeds into, like, if you have this very decentralized, lots of people have solar, you probably would just run some crypto miners. You'd get some, whatever they are, ant miners from Bitmain or whatever. Like, why not? You've got excess. And like, I don't do crypto mining at home, even though I'm kind of a Monero guy. Monero runs on CPUs. I could mine it on a home computer, but I don't because I'm aware that Australian electricity is too expensive. I'm competing with people who have much cheaper electricity, and I'm probably better off just buying Monero rather than trying to mine it myself.
There is an interesting opportunity with the crypto mining where everybody complains about how much energy it uses. But there's places like next to hydroelectric dams that just put out so much electricity. Geothermal type wells.
Mm.
I know our mutual friend Jethro he's living in Berlin next to a volcano. I mean, he's not mining it, but there's geothermal all over El Salvador because there's an active volcano. Not, I mean, I guess they're semi-dormant, but there's still magma down there that puts off a lot of heat. So, yeah, there's arbitrage opportunities where energy is abundant and cheap. Um, and yeah, I don't know. People always pretend that energy is every energy. Every ounce of electricity we have, every jolt is powered by some earth destroying fuel, like the dirtiest coal you can possibly imagine. It's like, no, there's a
Yeah,
lot of different
children's
ways
blood.
to create power. Yeah, exactly. Oh, jeez.
I run a Monero full node, not a miner, but just a full node for transacting with and so on. It runs in a data center in Canada, just because that's where I found a good price on a virtual server. But it happens that that data center is powered by Hydro. And so I just have this in my back pocket. If every now and then one of my particular kind of lefty friends wants to have a go at me about, crypto's not green, or whatever, I go, well, I run a node and it runs entirely on hydropower. It's an emission-free node that I run, and it can be done.
I think what we should do sometime is I want you to demonstrate some Monero stuff because I looked into it and it seems, I don't know, I know how to operate in Bitcoin, but I would like to see the Monero processes. It's one of those things is when you see it closer up, I know how to actually buy, how to create a wallet, all that, understand why it's so private. We've talked about this at length, but I still don't feel like I fully grok it yet. So I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting if we did a Monero tutorial in one of these sometime.
Sure, I'm totally down for that. It's yeah, one of the things I like about Monero is that I think it's, if you want to do a private transaction, I think it's way easier to do that in Monero than in Bitcoin. You just send. That's the beauty of it. So yeah, we'll get a wallet and we'll do a transaction on air, and
All
it's
right,
totally for
brilliant.
that.
All right, anything else we want to touch on before we get out of here today?
I don't think so off the top of my head. I think this is not the first time that we've both showed up to do one of these, and we're both in a black t-shirt.
I have worn a black t-shirt in every one of my podcasts for the past year and a half. So
Yeah, okay. I wear a lot of black t-shirts because I have small children, and black t-shirts don't stain. So it'll probably happen again.
I have just decided that for branding reasons, I'm gonna always have black, and that
Totally
way I
fair.
never have to worry if I slice multiple clips together, um, like in shorts or something. If I need to take something from here, something from there, I bought 12 of these. I forget the brand name right now, but they're super comfortable black t-shirts that I like. So I stocked up.
I'm actually trying to lean in somewhat to that thing that the billionaires do of wear the same thing every day to save your brain power of choosing clothes. I have a bunch of the same shorts and shirts.
Right now for me it's it's a little warm right now. It's actually 40 degrees, but it's usually between 0 and 15 degrees in the mountains. So my everyday outfit is whatever pair of jeans are on top of the pile and whatever hoodie is clean. That is my morning attire.
That is exactly what I do in the winter.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great one. As the men in black, we we thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time. All right, everybody, stay free.
Bye, everyone.